Minnesota Vikings general manager adofo-mensah and head coach Kevin O'Connell, reading through the tea leaves, it's very clear that they're in on a quarterback this year. They want to find the quarterback of the future. It's time to find that guy, because the greatest competitive advantage is if you have your dude, and also if he's on his rookie deal, you can spread a little bit of money around. It is really smart. And yes, I mean, there are a big four of quarterbacks in this year's draft. Bryce Young of Alabama, C.J. Stroud of Ohio State, low-key my favorite guy. Anthony Richardson, where the ceiling is the roof. And Will Levis is a big gamble as well. And the Vikings have been tied to Levis, and of course there's some interest there. But being at the back of the pack at number 23 overall, do the Vikings have the gumption and have the fortitude to move up and go get one of these guys if the situation is right? I think it's possible, but I think there's other options needed. But it's clear that the Kirk Cousins regime is probably over as he finishes out his contract 2023. The Vikings have reportedly had the opportunity to extend Kirk Cousins at reportedly a discount, but they balked at it. So I think that it's pretty clear that they're looking at the quarterback of the future. And absent these big four guys, there are other quarterback options in the mix. And reportedly, per Darren Wolfson on his podcast, The Scoop, the Vikings have done some work on Tennessee quarterback Hendon Hooker, as well as UCLA quarterback Dorian Thompson-Robinson, DTR. In fact, they've done a lot of work, per our guy, Vikings Insider. That's right, man, where I fully understand it. Where, hey, if you don't want to move heaven and earth and give up multiple first-round picks and maybe even Danielle Hunter to go up and get one of these guys, and you could just stick and pick at 23, Hendon Hooker could and should be there in the first round, or you go into the mid-rounds. Dorian Thompson-Robinson probably is going to be in that third, fourth round range, and the fact that the Vikings only have 5 draft picks, and they wouldn't have to sacrifice any or mortgage some of the future, it does make sense. And Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi could be like, hey, a lot of these guys coming in, sure, I mean, they have a couple of issues. Hendon Hooker is 75,000 years old and is coming off an ACL and played in a college simple offense. And DTR, Chip Kelly, quarterback, even though he improved every single year, he wasn't at the level of some of these other guys, although he's had himself a phenomenal pre-draft process, looked good at the combine, looked good at his pro day, etc. And it's the whole, mama, I can change him. Or, hey, we're going to have a year of these guys sitting behind Kirk Cousins, and we can get a full look at what they can do, and then potentially they could be ready to take the reins in 2024. And with Hooker, I mean, Hendon Hooker was in the Heisman race before he tore his ACL. Just had a phenomenal time at Tennessee, formerly of Virginia Tech. He was teammates with Christian Darrisaw back in the day. And yeah, I fully understand the drawbacks of him. He did turn 25 in January. When he takes over the Vikings in 2024, if he does, he would be 26 years old. I mean, that's literally the same age as Lamar Jackson is now. But he's got good size. He's got decent mobility. Like, he's not a running quarterback, but he can move. He's got a great deep ball. But you do wonder, him coming from a gimmicky, simple Josh Heupel college offense where he didn't have to make full field reads, where he didn't have to do this, that, or the other thing. And he is coming off the ACL, but he's got great leadership. He's got great intangibles. He's reportedly done extremely well in the interview process. And I think that all the steam of him being a first-round pick, and notably him being tied to the Vikings in the first round, I think it's legit. And if he gets to 23, the Vikings will have a decision, because do they address other positions of need, or do they get a guy who's going to potentially be the quarterback of the future going forward? And would you do that even though ideally he's not going to see the field this year, and the fact that you only have 5 draft picks? Who knows? DTR is a little bit more interesting, because probably going to be in that third, fourth round mix, has great physical attributes, has a lot of talent, has a good arm, is relatively accurate, got better every single year in Westwood under Chip Kelly. But also, he is a little bit older, too, because he's 23. He's going to be 24 in November. So low-key, he's got similar things with Hendon Hooker going on. But yeah, he's a really solid athlete, and he's a guy that could be molded. I think Hooker and DTR are 2 guys that could be molded, and just having a full year in camp of OTAs, mandatory minicamp, training camp, preseason, regular season, sitting and watching and learning how to be a pro, I think that would be phenomenal for these guys. And Kevin O'Connell, Wes Phillips, and O'Hara working with these guys going forward. Plus, If you take a DTR in the third round, and after all that process, you determine that he's not the guy, that doesn't preclude the Vikings from going after a quarterback in 2024. Same thing with Hendon Hooker, by the way, because a lot of people still go with the trope is like, well, if you miss on a quarterback in the first round, it sets your team back a decade. No, not anymore, especially with the rookie wage scale. Even if you miss on a quarterback high, like, you can still move on. No muss, no fuss, relatively speaking, because, I mean, the Jets are doing it with Zach Wilson. You saw the Cardinals do it with Josh Rosen, who's a top 10 pick, moving on to Kyler, although Arizona's got some problems of its own. And, Hooker would be number 23 overall. It's not like he would be the number 1 overall pick. So if he gets into camp and Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi get a good look at him, and then they realize after a year, I don't know, maybe he's not the guy, what's going to preclude them from going after a quarterback in 2024? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So, this whole trope and stereotype of like, well, if you miss on a quarterback, set your franchise back a decade. No, absolutely does not. And I'm a big take a quarterback every other year minimum. And even if you have that guy, you could easily debate that the most important position on a football team is QB2. It really is. But I think that Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi finding their guy, their quarterback of the future, is paramount. I think all the signs point that they're going to take a swing on a quarterback this year, and maybe it's not getting up into the stratosphere. Maybe it is taking a shot on a guy like Hendon Hooker or Dorian Thompson-Robinson. So we'll see. Anyways, your thoughts are thoughts. Vikings reportedly have done a lot of work on Hendon Hooker and DTR. Let us know your thoughts and our thoughts in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support the work? Put a little something in the Venmo. But till next time, Skol, production value.